When we think of the altar of God, we think of the bronze altar outside the tabernacle or temple. All the offerings of the people were brought to this altar. But there was a second altar, a golden altar, inside the tabernacle and later the temple. The priests were to burn incense on it twice a day. Exodus 30:7 and 8. Aaron shall burn on it sweet incense every morning when he tends the lamps. He shall burn incense on it. And when Aaron lights the lamps at twilight, he shall burn incense on it, a perpetual incense before the Lord throughout your generations. The desire to bypass the priesthood and offer incense before the Lord led to the downfall of more than a few people in the Bible. Competing to light the lamps of the menorah, which were lit at the same time the incense was burned, didn't seem to inspire such desire. Why did the people have such a desire to bring incense before the Lord? Why is God so particular about who offers the incense? What do the incense and its altar represent? I'm Brenda Cathcart, and this is Shadows of the Messiah. Offering incense on the golden altar was a highly desired activity among the priesthood. An article on the incense published by the templeinstitute.org states that the incense offering is the most beloved aspect of the temple service in God's eye. In the time of the Second Temple, there were so many priests that many of the duties were assigned by lot. One of those duties was burning the incense offering. Since this duty was so coveted, once a priest had the opportunity to burn the incense, their name was never put in the lot for that duty again. Burning the incense before the Lord was truly a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. Why is this offering considered the most beloved by God? To answer this question, we must first understand the role of the priesthood. The chronicler nicely summarizes the role of the priesthood in 1 Chronicles 6:49. But Aaron and his sons offered sacrifices on the altar of burnt offering and on the altar of incense for all the work of the most holy place, and to make atonement for Israel according to all that Moses, the servant of God, had commanded. The word translated as work is the Hebrew word malakah, number 4399, meaning deputyship, ministry. It comes from the Hebrew word malak, number 4397, meaning a deputy, messenger, or angel. The work of the most holy place was to go into the Holy of Holies as God's designated authority to make atonement for Israel. It was the culmination of all the other duties of the priesthood. In our last blog, Put on the Holy Garments, we discussed the role of the high priest as that of bringing the tribes of Israel before the remembrance of God. When a person brought an offering to God, it was given to the priest, who then presented it to God. If the offering was less than perfect, the fact that the high priest wore the plate inscribed with holiness to the Lord covered the offering and made it holy. God explains the purpose of the plate to Moses in Exodus 28:38. So it shall be on Aaron's forehead, that Aaron may bear the iniquity of the holy things which the children of Israel hallow in all their holy gifts. And it shall always be on his forehead, that they may be accepted before the Lord. So all the offerings by the children of Israel were in a sense filtered by the priesthood. This is further emphasized when we learn that all the offerings occur between the special twice daily offerings of a lamb. These offerings are called the tamid, the continual or perpetual offerings. Exodus 29:38 and 39. Now this is what you shall offer on the altar: 2 lambs of the first year, day by day, continually. 1 lamb you shall offer in the morning, and the other lamb you shall offer at twilight. Then skipping down to verses 42 and 43. This shall be a continual burnt offering throughout your generations at the door of the tabernacle of meeting before the Lord, where I will meet you to speak with you, and there I will meet with the children of Israel, and the tabernacle shall be sanctified by my glory. The children of Israel brought all their offerings between the time of the morning and evening lambs. The purpose of the offerings is to enable the children of Israel to approach or come near to God. When the glory of God entered the tabernacle in the wilderness, no one, not even Moses, could approach. Then God spoke out of the tabernacle with instructions on how to approach him. Leviticus 1:1 and 2. Now the Lord called to Moses and spoke to him from the tabernacle of meeting, saying, "Speak to the children of Israel and say to them, when any one of you brings an offering to the Lord, you shall bring your offering of the livestock, of the herd and of the flock." The phrase "bring an offering" includes two Hebrew words, karav and korban, Numbers 71:26 and 71:33, meaning to come near and something brought near. Perhaps a literal translation of this phrase would be, when any one of you come near with something brought near to the Lord. This emphasizes that approaching God requires bringing something that allows one to draw near to God. This offering is frequently called the korban offering. The priests were not only to offer these offerings on the bronze altar, they were to burn incense on the golden altar. Not surprisingly, the twice daily offering of incense, as well as the tending of the lamps of the menorah, occurred at the same time as the twice daily offering of the lambs of the Tamid offering. The offering brought to the bronze altar allowed someone to approach God. Now, what do you do after you approach God? What does anyone do after approaching another person? They usually have a conversation. God said that he would meet with the children of Israel to speak to them. The incense offering represents a conversation between God and man. David asked God that his prayer be presented to God as the incense. Psalms 141:1 and 2. Lord, I cry out to you. Make haste to me. Give ear to my voice when I cry out to you. Let my prayer be set before you as incense, the lifting up of my hands as the evening sacrifice. In John's vision of heaven that he described in the book of Revelation, he saw that the incense offered on the golden altar is the prayers of the saints. Revelation 8:3-4. Then another angel having a golden censer came and stood at the altar. He was given much incense, that he should offer it with the prayers of all the saints upon the golden altar which was before the throne. And the smoke of the incense with the prayers of the saints ascended before God from the angel's hand. By coming to the tabernacle or temple of God, we can draw near to him and have a conversation with him. This isn't the only place, of course, from which God speaks to his people. We know that he spoke to the prophets through dreams and visions wherever they were. John was on the Isle of Patmos when he received the visions described in the book of Revelation. But the tabernacle or temple was the place that the average person could go to hear from God. Hannah went to the tabernacle to plead for a son. David went to the tabernacle to seek God's instructions. We can see why God considers the burning of the incense as the most beloved of the temple services. God wants his people to seek out his counsel. He wants to have a conversation with us. So why is it so important that only the priests burn the incense? When the Levite Korah and other leaders of the congregation rebelled against Moses and Aaron, they insisted that the entire congregation of Israel was holy, and that since God was among them, they didn't need the offices of Aaron and Moses. Numbers 16:3. They gathered together against Moses and Aaron and said to them, "You take too much upon yourselves, for all the congregation is holy, every one of them, and the Lord is among them. Why then do you exalt yourselves above the assembly of the Lord?" They questioned why they needed Moses and Aaron. Moses' response addressed both the issue of the korban offering and the burning of incense. Numbers 16:4-7. So when Moses heard it, he fell on his face, and he spoke to Korah and all his company, saying, "Tomorrow morning the Lord will show who is his and who is holy, and will cause him to come near to him. That one whom he chooses he will cause to come near to him. Do this. Take censers, Korah and all your company, put fire in them and put incense in them before the Lord tomorrow. And it shall be that the man whom the Lord chooses is the Holy One. You take too much upon yourselves, you sons of Levi. Moses told Korah and his companions to go ahead and bypass Aaron and bring the incense to God without him. This should have scared them enough for them to back down from this challenge. They were there at the dedication of the tabernacle when God didn't hesitate to slay Aaron's sons, Nadab and Abihu, for bringing strange fire before the Lord. Leviticus 10:1. Then Nadab and Abihu, the sons of Aaron, each took his censer and put fire in it, put incense on it, and offered profane fire before the Lord, which he had not commanded them. Although the offense of Nadab and Abihu was to bring strange fire, the event occurred when they were bringing incense to the Lord. But Korah and 250 other leaders of Israel didn't seem to make the connection between offering the incense and the deaths of Nadab and Abihu. They all showed up the next day to offer incense. Numbers 16, 17, and 18. Let each take his censer and put incense in it, and each of you bring his censer before the Lord, 250 censers, both you and Aaron, each with his censer. So every man took his censer, put fire in it, laid incense on it, and stood at the door of the tabernacle of meeting with Moses and Aaron. Their arrival at the entrance to the tabernacle enraged God. God opened the ground around the tents of the chief rebels, Korah, Dathan, and Abiram. Anyone who didn't distance themselves from them were swallowed by the earth. Then fire came out from God and consumed the 250 men who offered incense. God instructed Aaron's son Eleazar to gather the censers from the fire and use them to construct a covering for the golden altar to remind them that only a descendant of Aaron could approach the incense altar before the Lord. Numbers 16, 39, and 40. So Eleazar the priest took the bronze censers, which those who were burned up had presented, and they were hammered out as a covering on the altar, to be a memorial to the children of Israel that no outsider who is not a descendant of Aaron should come near to offer incense before the Lord, that he might not become like Korah and his companions, just as the Lord had said to him through Moses. It wasn't enough that they were holy and that the Lord was among them. It was also necessary for those who burnt the incense to be of the lineage of Aaron. Centuries later, King Uzziah of Judah decided that he was entitled to burn incense on the golden altar. Uzziah is described as a good king, one who generally followed in the ways of David. We are told that in his early years he sought God through the priest Zechariah. 2 Chronicles 26:5. He sought God in the days of Zechariah, who had understanding in the visions of God, and as long as he sought the Lord, God made him prosper. But in his later years, Uzziah grew proud and claimed the right to burn incense before the Lord. 2 Chronicles 26:16. But when he was strong, his heart was lifted up to his destruction, for he transgressed against the Lord his God by entering the temple of the Lord to burn incense on the altar of incense. Uzziah immediately broke out with leprosy. He was afflicted with leprosy until the day he died. His son Jotham ruled in his place. Leprosy is generally accepted as the result of evil speech. Uzziah, who wished to bypass the priests and go directly to God, was divinely convicted of evil speech. Looking back once again at the rebellion of Korah, even after the death of the 250 leaders, the congregation continued to complain against Moses and Aaron, blaming them for the deaths of the rebels. God was angry that they still didn't get the message and that they spoke against his chosen leaders. Numbers 16:46-48. So Moses said to Aaron, "Take a censer and put fire in it from the altar, put incense on it, and take it quickly to the congregation and make atonement for them, for wrath has gone out from the Lord, the plague has begun." Then Aaron took it as Moses commanded and ran into the midst of the assembly, and already the plague had begun among the people. So he put in the incense and made atonement for the people. And he stood between the dead and the living, so the plague was stopped. In this case, the incense, burned directly in the censer, served to atone for the people. I believe it represented Moses' prayers of intercession for the people. It served to reinforce that only Aaron and his descendants were chosen to burn incense before the Lord. The Stone Edition Chumash states that one of the reasons for the incense service is that once the presence was in the tabernacle, incense was the prescribed method to welcome the king and show him honor. It also serves as a protection from the danger associated with approaching God without the proper honor. The high priest burned the incense in the Holy of Holies on the Day of Atonement so he wouldn't die in the presence of God. It was during the incense service that God chose to announce the birth of John the Baptist, the forerunner of Yeshua. The priest Zacharias was chosen by Lot to offer the incense. Luke 1:8-11. So it was that while he was serving as priest before God in the order of his division, according to the custom of the priesthood, his lot fell to burn incense when he went into the temple of the Lord. And the whole multitude of the people was praying outside at the hour of incense. Then an angel of the Lord appeared to him, standing on the right side of the altar of incense. Zacharias and his wife Elizabeth had been praying for a child. The answer came while Zacharias was offering the incense, the prayers of the people. His and Elizabeth's prayers were heard, and the answer was given. It was appropriate that this intimate conversation with God take place at the incense service. Why is it so important that the priest burn the incense? It shows proper honor for the sanctity of the tabernacle and respect for the priesthood. It honors Yeshua, our high priest, who is not only the offering and the one bringing the offering, he is the one speaking our names before the Father. Matthew 10:32. Therefore, whoever confesses me before men, him I will also confess before my Father who is in heaven. He is the one who is the conduit for our conversations with God. John 14:6. Jesus said to him, I am the way, the truth, and the life. No one comes to the Father except through me. He is the one who brings our prayers to God, giving them power. John 14:12-14. Most assuredly I say to you, he who believes in me, the works that I do, he will do also. And greater works than these he will do, because I go to my Father. And whatever you ask in my name, that I will do, that the Father may be glorified in the Son. If you ask anything in my name, I will do it. Burning the incense is the most beloved of the temple services. It represents the desire to directly communicate with God. But God is a holy God. He is perfectly just and righteous. In order to come before Him, we must follow the correct protocol, both for our protection and His honor. Yeshua, our high priest, allows us to draw near to God and have a real relationship with Him. Thanks for watching today. I'm Brenda Cathcart, and this has been Shadows of the Messiah. Shalom and be blessed.